Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here today with a tag video, the in or out book tag. This is an original tag by Rick McDonnell, and I was tagged by Melinda at A Web of Stories. I highly recommend you go and check out Melinda's channel. She is relatively new to BookTube, but has come on wonderfully. She's got lots of great videos to check out. So, the in or out book tag is a list of 26 questions. Luckily, these are quick, are you in or are you out questions. So the first prompt is reading the last page first. Are you in or out? I am way out on that one. I hate spoilers, and I often say that in my videos. I do not ever give away spoilers in my reviews or here on BookTube. In fact, sometimes I don't even read the cover blurb because they give away too much. I hear about a book that sounds good as a recommendation from someone, or I'm reading it for book group or for another reason, and I like to just dive in and let it unfold as the author intended it. So I would never read the last page first. Prompt 2, enemies to lovers. So this is mainly a trope in romance novels, and I don't read much romance. Generally, I find the enemies to lovers trope, particularly in a romance novel, to be kind of trite and predictable because you know what's going to happen. I realized, though, that I did just recently read an enemies to lovers plot that I enjoyed, and that was The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. This is a romance. I made an exception for this because the main character and the author both share the chronic illness that I have, an immune disorder known as MECFS. So the author beautifully incorporated the main character's chronic illness into the book. And I mentioned chronic illness and people think depressing, but no, it is a typical rom-com kind of book. It's very funny. There's a lot of stuff happening. And yes, it is enemies to lover, and I did enjoy it. So generally I'm out, but on this one I was in. Prompt 3, dream sequences. I had trouble thinking of books I've read that have dream sequences. So I guess I'm in. I did just in December read The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. And this is about like an illness where people go into a deep sleep where they're dreaming all the time. So there were some dream sequences in this book out of necessity, and I loved this book. So I guess I'm in. Prompt 4, love triangles. Again, typically a romance trope, so mainly out on that one. Number 5, cracked spines. I would have said I don't care, but the other night, my husband and I, we always read together in bed before we go to sleep. And he opened up a new hardback and I heard a crack, and I was just like, did you just crack the spine? He goes, no, I don't think so. So I guess I think that a good quality book shouldn't crack when you open it. So this may have just been a new book crack, not a spine crack. Prompt 6, back to my small town. Again, I think mainly a romance trope, so I don't read many of those. And I couldn't really think of a non-romance book I've read that had a back to my small town plot. I guess if I came across one, I'd be willing to read it. Prompt 7, monsters are regular people. I thought this was amusing. I also don't read a lot of books with monsters in them, so I can't say I've come across this very often other than reading Frankenstein, the classic. I think I'd be into that if I came across it. Prompt 8, no paragraph breaks. I don't know if I've come across that, but I think it would drive me crazy. So I'm going to say out. Number 9, multi-generational sagas. Generally, I think I'm in on those. Again, I was trying to think of examples. Definitely Pachinko by Minjin Lee was outstanding. Just an amazing novel, and did go through several generations of a family in Korea. So loved that. A couple of others that occurred to me that I've enjoyed were The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton, Country of Origin by Dalia Azim, excellent book that I just read last year. So I'd say I'm in. Prompt 10, rereading. I'm okay with that. I enjoy rereading. I don't always have a lot of time to reread. It comes up once in a while if my book group chooses a book that I read but not recently, then I will definitely reread it. So I've done that with some of my favorite books, like The Time Traveler's Wife, The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, and absolutely loved them just as much the second time. Oh, The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver, all fabulous books that I very much enjoyed rereading. So I'm in. Prompt 11, artificial intelligence. This is another one I wasn't sure I've really come across much in books. I don't read a lot of hard sci-fi. I like science fiction that deals with manipulating time travel, time shifting, time repeating, all kinds of things like that. I find that endlessly fascinating. The multiverse kind of concept. But in terms of AI, I wasn't sure I've come across it very often in a book. And then I remembered I did enjoy it in Machine Learning by Hugh Howey. Now, Hugh Howey is the amazing author of the Silo trilogy, which starts with Wool, one of the best trilogies my husband and I have ever read. And if you think you don't like sci-fi, this is more about the people. It's post-apocalyptic, and it's more about the people and the way they're living. But anyway, he wrote a book of short stories called Machine Learning, which does involve several stories about AI, mostly AI gone bad, and I did enjoy those. So I guess I'm in for artificial intelligence. Prompt 12 is drop caps. Now, I might not have known what these are, except that I decided to include them in my own book. I published this in 2020, and as you can see, I did include drop caps at the start of each chapter. So I'd say I'm in. I like the way it looks. I think it's a nice way to start a chapter. Prompt 13, happy endings. I'm all for a happy ending. I would say I don't necessarily need a happy ending. I need an appropriate ending, an ending that feels right. So sometimes that's happy. I do struggle with books that are just overwhelmingly nonstop dark. I need at least some hope at the end that things may be better in the future. I need hope in a book. So a happy ending or hope, I'm definitely in. Prompt 14, plot points that only converge at the end. I'm in. I actually love this in a book. And I was realizing that's exactly what happens in Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel, a book that I loved last year. So definitely all in on different plot points or even different narrators that all come together in the end. I like that. Prompt 15, detailed magic systems. Not so much. My older son is an avid reader, and he loves epic fantasy. Classic 1,000-page swords and magic. That is his thing. He loves it. Me, not so much. I did, of course, enjoy the Harry Potter series, but generally I don't read a lot of fantasy. So probably out on that one. Prompt 16, classic fantasy races. Same thing, you know. Not really my thing. Prompt 17, Unreliable Narrators. So this has definitely been overdone in recent years, but I like it when it's done well. I'm in when it's done well. And one that came to mind was, and I was trying to think, because often to say a book has an unreliable narrator is in itself a spoiler. And you know how I feel about spoilers. But then I remembered a book that I loved, and so did my husband, Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. And it was made into a movie that was very good as well. This is about a woman with a specific kind of amnesia where her brain, her memory kind of wipes clean while she's sleeping. So every morning she wakes up and remembers nothing. Clearly, that's an unreliable narrator right from the start. It's an excellent book. Really enjoyed it. You know, when I said it, it's been overdone. You know, the ones I'm really not in for are the woman who, and it's always a woman, the woman who drinks too much, the woman who, and there have been a whole string of these books, starting with the girl on the train, and then there've been so many of these that if you've got a good sense of humor, you might be interested in the TV series on Netflix. I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right. The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window. It's starring Kristen Bell. It is a mystery thriller, but with tongue firmly in cheek. It is, at the same time that it is a mystery and we didn't figure out, the answer to it until the end, it's also just very, very funny and kind of making fun of this whole genre of unreliable narrators. So anyway, let's get back to the list. Prompt 18, Evil Protagonists. I could be in if it's done right. Generally, I think I'm out. I don't read a lot of fantasy or horror, which I think is where you generally come across evil protagonists. Evil people in real life stories I find kind of unbelievable. We come across this in some of the TV shows we watch. Maybe there are people that bad in the world. I don't want to know about them. So I guess I'd say generally out. Prompt 19, The Chosen One. Again, generally a theme or plot point in fantasy, which I don't read much of. Prompt 20, When the Protagonist Dies. I wouldn't say I'm into that, but I'm okay with it. Again, if the ending is appropriate and it makes sense. Some of my favorite books, which I won't mention because it's a spoiler, the protagonist dies. And if the book makes me sob my eyes out, well, all the better. It means it made me feel something, which is good in my book. So I'm in if the protagonist dies. I don't wish for it, certainly, but if it happens, I'm okay with it, as long as it makes sense. Prompt 21, really long chapters. I'd prefer not really long chapters, but as the annual host of Big Book Summer, a lot of big books do have longer chapters. A lot of classics have longer chapters, and I do like reading classics. I'm okay with it. I do prefer shorter chapters, so I guess I'll say out. Prompt 22, French Flaps. I like those. Those are nice. Recently I've gotten some graphic novels that had French flaps, and that was a really nice way to, you can use them as bookmarks. 23, Deckled Edges. Nah, I'm out. I know it's supposed to be fancier, but I find it hard to turn the pages, to flip pages. Prompt 24, signed copies by the author. I love that. I'm an avid reader. I'm a writer myself. I greatly appreciate what the writer has put into the book. I love signed copies. I actually have quite a few because of Booktopia, an annual event I attend in Vermont every May. I'll include information down below. Prompt 25, dog earring pages. You know, it's another thing. I'm not necessarily in or out with it, but I'm okay with it. I use bookmarks to mark my places. I've got like dozens of bookmarks all over the house. There's always one available. I do sometimes dog ear if there's a quote I want to remember on a page and I'm not somewhere where I can tab it or write it down. I'll put a really tiny little dog ear on the page just so I can find the quote again. And prompt number 26, chapter titles instead of numbers. I'm okay, I'm in. Doesn't matter to me. Numbers or titles, either way. I don't know that I even noticed that much. And then at the bottom of this tag list, as I got it from Melinda, it says, plus Jennifer's 3 extra prompts. So I'll quickly answer those. Quirky Detectives, I'm in. I don't read as many mysteries as we watch mystery and crime TV shows. Love the Quirky Detective on TV. Our current favorite is Will Trent, a new show. On my book blog, I also review TV shows and movies. So I'll include my link below for my review of Will Trent. If you like Quirky Detectives, check it out. I was trying to think of books with Quirky Detectives, and one that I thought of was The Verifiers by Jane Peck, a Booktopia book from last year. I got to meet Jane and have dinner with her, and she signed my book. So, yep, definitely into that. Here, the detective is not really a detective. And I think that's where you often get quirky detectives. Someone who, it's not their job, but they end up getting pulled into solving a mystery somehow. So I'm in with Quirky Detectives. Only one murder. That's fine. I do read some mystery and thriller, and often there's only one murder. I'm into it. And long mystery series is the last prompt. Probably out. The last time I read a long, and it's more of a thriller series, was the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich. And somewhere around maybe number 22 or so, I kind of stopped keeping up with it. I know she's continued to write it. I do enjoy them. They're a lot of fun. And it used to be fun because one would come out every summer. But generally, you know, I'm not someone who's going to go back and read all the books in a series to catch up, usually. One example is Louise Penny. I love her books. I read number 1, enjoyed it. The next one I read was number 15. And then I think 17 and 18. So not necessarily, you know, reading all of them or reading them in order. I am, if you watch my channel, you know, I am totally into the Anne Kinnear suspense series by Maddie Dalrymple, which starts with The Sense of Death. That is about a woman who can sense spirits and talk to ghosts, and that's how she solves mysteries. I am really in love with that series, but it was relatively new when I started it. So I just read book 6, and that's the latest one. So, you know, I'm all caught up with just 6 books. Okay, so that was the in and out book tag. I'm going to tag 3 booktubers. I don't know who's done this one before. I did a little bit of a search. I don't think these 3 channels have done it yet. I'm tagging Book Buds because I would love to hear their 2 points of view on this. John at Hey Y'all Listen Up. I enjoy his channel. John, if you enjoy doing book tags, feel free to do this one. And Jillian at Novel Opinions. Always enjoy Jillian's channel. She's got some great videos and wonderful vlogs. So check those 3 out. I'll include links down below. you're welcome to do it as well if it sounds interesting to you, or leave your answers down below if there are certain pet peeves that you have about books and reading where you're definitely out, or things you really love where you're definitely in. Let me know in the comments down below.